Day zero, a lot of companies came in and I was not shortlisted in any of them. So I was very disheartened. A lot of people say that MBA is a waste of money, and see, of course, everybody comes from a different kind of an experience. But I think if one has put in the money, you might as well just go to all the classes and take the notes and listen to your professors and all the guest speakers.
So Tanya, did you get into Titan right after B school?
Yeah, during my first year actually, because Titan usually recruits at summer placements, which is after your first year ends. Not even like your internship starts. That's when I got placed, and then I got an earlier PPO.
Also, you converted the internship into a PPO and then you got into Titan. Yeah. How was the process like for you, and what were some of the interview questions asked, if you don't mind sharing them?
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of questions, I'm not very sure if I remember though. But the process was such that I was very scared that there is something called a training and placement committee, and placements are going to happen, because I had never experienced that in my undergraduation. So I had no knowledge of it whatsoever. But I therefore over prepared. Because I was so scared. I was like, okay, I have to understand what is it. One of the great things, so what happens is when you're in the race for it, a lot of times there are so many companies that are coming in on campus. Day zero, a lot of companies came in and I was not shortlisted in any of them. So I was very disheartened. And I was speaking to my brother, and he's an XLRI alumni, and he told me one thing. He's like 6 years elder to me. So he was like, I'll tell you a few words. You have to remember those few words in the placement journey, which is every time you see any result and you're not in that company's, only tell yourself, okay, what's next? That's it. You don't have to mull over it. Why did you not make it? What happened? Nothing. All you have to do is what's next and how am I going to be improving in that? So that is something that stuck in my head. So I did not waste time in mulling over anything, and I immediately, so day zero, I did not get anything. Day one, Titan, and I think Raymond and Royal Enfield had shortlisted me. So I was like, okay, this is my day. I'm going to convert one of them. I don't know which one. I have no preferences. All are very good companies. And I went with that bent of mind, and I started actively participating in all the group discussions. How Titan's process is that Titan does not take a normal group discussion of 20 minutes. Like a normal discussion is, 20 minutes, they'll give you a topic. How Titan conducts, or I think most startup companies conduct, is they conduct a chairman's GD, which is that if there are, let's say, 5 people, so every person will be a chairman for one particular round of group discussion. So we'll be given like a case to solve. So for instance, there are 5 people. I am the chairman for this round. They'll give me a topic to discuss, and I will start like a business case, very small business case. So and so has happened, people problem or a process problem, something like that. So then you have to moderate that group discussion, and then you have to come with a solution of, okay, this is my board. I'm the chairman. What is it that I present to the board of directors? So this is called a chairman's GD. So what happens in a chairman's GD is that it's a 20-minute round for all 5 people. So you have to actively participate for so many minutes. So therefore, what they're trying to test, what I'm assuming what they're trying to test is whether you're perseverant or not, whether it is that you have a lackadaisical attitude. Suppose you started off very well, but then after that you're like, okay, body language is also, you're like, okay, I don't want to participate anymore. I have already contributed enough. No, you have to be vigilant, active, and performing through and through. So that was the GD round, and there was an analytical round as well. And then an interview. One question that I remember that I was asked was to sell a fossil watch to the person. Fossil is not a Titan company. So they asked me to sell a fossil watch. So I told them, no, why are you navigating to the fossil watch? Why don't you, buy something like a Titan Raga for your wife? And that's how the conversation started. So it was very case to case and very fun. Some questions which are about the company as to what are the facts. So whenever you're entering a particular company, so therefore, like I said, over preparation in the hindsight is a little not required when you're actually at that stage. Suppose you have converted the GD and going towards interview, then one of the quickest hack is you type Titan on Google or whatever company, or you type Raymond on Google, and then you go to the news section. And in the news section, whatever is the latest news about that company, you try to understand what is it, where are they placed, and then you enter the interview round.
Okay, so I was having an offline discussion with them off camera, and I got a lot of questions about constantly upskilling also, because lately, because of technology and a lot of new functions emerging, which will require you to have a certain skill set, you are expected to upskill relatively often compared to how things were in the past. So, what does like I'm just asking you personally, how does upskilling look like for you now?
A year back, I was thinking that, okay, I should be, looking at upskilling, because a lot of times what happens is there are two, three types of upskilling. One is on the job. One is like courses which are being offered within the company. But there was another which is like a setting where you go ahead and you search for whatever courses you want to do. So one thing that Google had kind of come up with was digital marketing courses called DigiPivot. So that is specifically for women and mid-career, even early career women. And if they want to upskill, they can upskill through that course. So I had taken up that, and that was a digital marketing course of 4 months. So there was a huge round of like a selection process, and some 1,500 odd applications had come nationally. So they selected a few 300 odd from that, and then we did the whole course of 4 months. So that was upskilling for me. So like I said, you have to keep learning, and I think it's a misconception that upskilling is something that now we have to do. I mean, look at our parents. They had to learn so much in terms of computer. So therefore, even writing an email was an upskilling for that kind of a generation, which was so used to taking notes in registers. So yeah, I think it's a part and parcel of the process.
Just for general knowledge sake, what are some exit career opportunities after brand management?
Okay, so a lot of times what people end up doing is they become either so interested in the creative aspect that they switch their roles to an ad agency. So they switch to an ad agency and then they want to focus there. What another aspect could be, you jump up the rail. So for instance, what I am doing in Titan is that I started my career as a product manager, and here product managers are of a real product like a watch or a eyewear, etc. So I started as a product manager. I've got now a branding role, and cumulatively now the next step, very organically for me, would be to be a marketing manager, which is somebody who's going to be heading the product side of it and the brand side of it. Then also there are certain very very specific ones that you can take. For instance, you can enter the digital marketing or the digital. You can start becoming the digital head of that particular company. You can navigate towards e-commerce. So there are a lot of avenues that one ends up opening for when they enter as a brand manager.
One last question. Like it serves as a final takeaway from this conversation. Now, since we are talking about your MBA days, I want to reflect back one final time. Probably in hindsight, what are some of the things that you did right, which are serving you well in your career right now?
I paid attention in classes. That was something very, very, because I genuinely feel that people, like a lot of people say that MBA is a waste of money. And see, of course, everybody comes from a different kind of an experience. But I think if one has put in the money, you should might as well just go to all the classes and take the notes and listen to your professors and all the guest speakers, because they, even if they're giving a 50-minute talk, 1 minute will resonate with you and will always stay with you. And that 1 minute, will come to you when you're sitting in a board meeting. So therefore, going to classes and just absorbing whatever they are giving. If you're interested, you will naturally start liking or reading about it more. If you're not, it'll skip you. But one thing that I really enjoyed were my consumer insighting classes and market research. I used to absolutely love understanding what are the different ways of market research and what is it that the consumer is trying to say. So those, but at the end of the day, always be a keen learner.
I open the discussion for one final Q&A round.
So my question was that as a brand manager and a brand to be called a successful in future, what are the different KPIs that are associated with it? And also, what are the other financial aspect we have to keep in mind to be a successful brand?
Quite a lot. See, the KPIs are something which will depend on the objective. So ultimately, where are you placed is something that you need
In
to understand.
context of luxury goods or maybe Titan only.
particularly for Titan, I'll not say, but otherwise, in the let's say if you're a established brand or if you're a starter, okay, there are two basic objectives that one is to start with. So if you're somebody who's just started up and nobody knows about your brand, that it exists. First is you have to sit on the table and you have to see what all are my brand's core, USP, my audience. These 4 5 things you have to get correct. Then you have to go with an objective that, okay, I need to create awareness. When you have to create awareness, your KPI immediately becomes impressions for if you're doing performance. Even in like footfall, impressions, how many eyeballs did I capture is the end KPI metric that you're trying to chase. If you're an established brand and you have certain set of buyers coming in, everybody knows that you exist, let's say Tata Namak, right? You don't need to do awareness if you're not launching a new product. If you're just talking about your normal Tata Salt, there's no awareness required for that. So what is it that you will want is repeat. Why are people now going to Himalaya? Why are they not coming and buying my salt? Why is my repeat conversion not going? Why am I not increasing new buyers day in and day out? So increase in buyers or increase in retention is something that you would want to chase. If within a like a Tata Salt, let's say, or a brand which is very well established, if within that you want to start or chase a new brand or something, a new product that you've launched. For instance, in Titan we launched Smart Eyewear. So now the metrics becomes again awareness. So it's not like every time you are a startup, you'll be chasing certain set of metrics. It will whole and soul depend on what is it that you're trying to sell to the market. So basis that your KPIs will start changing. Financial aspect is marketing spends should be zero. Your CFO will tell you that don't spend anything, but I should get buyers. So financial aspect, basically it is you have to understand that whenever you're chasing top line. For a marketer's job, you're chasing top line, but you have to be very well aware that you don't hit, in terms of your bottom line also you have to be aware. So financial, like the biggest thing is you have to keep chasing and the revenue. At the same time, you have to justify each and every spend. And I think that is very good as a learning for a brand manager to be able to justify that if I'm doing this, if I'm bringing a celebrity. So don't bring a celebrity just for the sake of it, because they burn a lot of cash also. And each one story of a celebrity will pinch your pocket if you're if you're already chasing certain profit margins. So therefore, the biggest thing is to be able to justify every spend. That is something you have to be cognizant of every time you're doing any campaign or every time you're doing any kind of a budgeting exercise.
Now that you have 4 5 years of experience, how can you give us an idea of how easy is it to change your function? So let's say some related function. So let's say from marketing or branding, if you wanted to go switch to consulting tomorrow, or the other way around, someone from consulting wanted to switch to brand management, is that how difficult or easy is that?
I'll give you my example. I started as a product manager. So my purpose was to be able to launch new products. So whole cycle of a product I have to manage at each stage, which was nowhere in relation to the. So once the product cycle ends, once you've handed it over to the branding team or the marketing team, then your job is over. So there was no overlap. But then my next role became brand manager because I took a small live project when I was in the company. When I was working in Titan Watches, I took a small project of launching Titan I Plus in the international markets. So because of that small project, which in Titan's ecosystem, they're called bridge projects. So basically those projects help you get into some other stream or some other line or some other sector within the company. And if somebody in that team really likes the way you work, so they can then basically offer you a role in that team. So that way navigating is a little easy. You take a little bit of task, you try to do justice to that task, you make an impression on the people who are hiring, and then you go towards the other role.
Ma'am, so I'm a brand manager myself, and all the brands I currently manage are under the sports and fitness category. So I just wanted to know tomorrow if I wanted to switch to a different category, let's say maybe a watches category or a fashion category, will the same skill sets that I'm developing right now help me transition, or will I have to just continue diving deeper into the sports and management segment itself?
Not necessarily, because if you're doing your job right, there are 2 3 things like I mentioned. You have to understand the consumer. So once you start understanding the watches consumer, the principles that you're putting in for selling your sports brand will be the same principles that you're putting in for selling a watch. But yeah, but the whole thing is to understand the consumer mindset. So consumer mindset, who's where you're selling now, may not be relevant to a watch's mindset, but you should be good enough with your market research skill set that you are able to do the transition.
Like one of the newest Tata product was Zudio. So what I found very fascinating was Zudio was not doing any marketing. Like Zudio was only marketing strategy was word of mouth. So in Zudio, like totally word of mouth. How to drive that strategy? Like only by word of mouth.
See, a CFO will love it because you're not spending anything. But a brand like Zudio can do it because they come from a legacy brand. So you have to see where you're placed at the same time. At the second thing is that it's not like they were not doing marketing. The fact that they have a store in a premium location of a good neighborhood with like so much real estate to put their imagery on and saying that this is only for 999 or so on and so forth is marketing in itself. So that store space itself is also acting as a visual marketing. So I won't say they're not doing, but at the same time, whether they targeted you or not is a different thing. So maybe you did not see the ads, but somebody else who found it relevant saw the ads. So it depends on brand strategy to strategy, but of course the end goal for all of us is that word of mouth should be the only way we keep getting all the buyers. But the hard fact is that that's not true.
So with respect to market research and the creativity aspect, so there are currently various commercials which are breaking the generational beauty standards. So for example, there was a recent commercial of Lenskart featuring Aditi Rao where she was wearing specs in a wedding setup. So basically what we feel in a wedding setup, we don't usually wear specs. So we don't feel that we are having this picture perfect photo if we wear specs in a wedding setup. So that stereotype they used to not damage that entire thinking. What is your thinking on this, that breaking the entire thing that you can be beautiful wearing specs in a wedding setup as well?
Of course, we should see. It depends on if suppose you've garnered a certain kind of population. For instance, if you have made enough conversations about what you're already selling, and people are buying you for a certain occasion, again and again, they're buying you for that occasion. You want to expand your market, you want to expand your market share, so you will have to, as a brand, come up with newer ways for people to adapt you. So that they don't just associate that particular brand with the one occasion, but they should associate it with others. For instance, let's say sneakers. So even wedding as a market became very popular for sneakers because they started coming with bridal shoes. So that is something that nobody else was actually, ever thought. But they came up with that, and now people have started absorbing it. So as a brand, you need to keep looking at different avenues to sell so that more and more people come into your system.
It was a great session. I mean, there were so many questions asked by them because they were listening very intently. And thank you for your time, Tanya.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys.